Hey everyone, welcome to Big Flick Energy, and with the recent release of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, we have to talk about Phase 5. Phase 4 is over, and I had a lot of problems with it, and I'm sure a lot of you guys did too. So today I wanted to discuss the top 5 things that I think Kevin Feige needed to learn from Phase 4 and bring into Phase 5. Now, we already know the entire schedule for this phase, so I'm not really sure how many changes are going to be made, but not everything has started filming from Phase 5, so hopefully we can see a lot of changes. And after seeing Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, I'm going to be able to discuss a little bit of if I think they're going on the right track so far with my 5 propositions, or if they're not. So here we go. First off, give direction. One of my biggest problems with Phase 4 was they set up so much, but nothing seemed connected. Back in Phases 1 through 3, the only characters we weren't sure how they would bring into the picture were the Guardians of the Galaxy. But now there are so many characters in dispersed locations to bring in, like Moon Knight, Werewolf by Night, the Eternals, and so many more where they need to start showing what is eventually going to happen and how these characters can eventually connect. By the end of Phase 4, the only reason we knew what these 3 phases was leading up to was because Kevin Feige told us, instead of pulling a Phase 1 with an Avengers where we get to see who that threat is at the end of the film. Instead, Phase 4 teased us with the Celestials and Eternals, Dormammu in Multiverse of Madness with the end credits scene going back to the Dark Dimension, Zeus and Hercules in Love and Thunder, whatever was sending the message at the end of Shang-Chi, and Kang the Conqueror in Loki. As of now, it looks like they're doing a good job with that to start off Phase 5 with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania by showing us which of these characters it will be in Kang the Conqueror, but they still have a lot of work to do in prepping the other characters' stories to connect, and hopefully it's not by ignoring the stories they teased in Phase 4, like they did with Mordo and Doctor Strange and Scorpion in Homecoming. I think Shang-Chi will be an easy one by explaining that the 10 rings were created by Kang in the past and that's the beacon being sent, which in turn also helps tie in a lot of characters like Wong, She-Hulk, Hulk, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, and Miss Marvel. Then Loki can be used for Thor, the Guardians, and Deadpool since the TVA is now supposed to be a part of that film, the 3rd Deadpool film. Now, how to tie in the rest, I have no idea, so we'll just have to wait and see. The second point is a VFX payday. I never looked at Marvel as having bad CGI until Phase 4, where we got way too many horrible looking scenes like
What the hell is even that?
Marvel's at a point where no matter how good a film is, fans will meme about the bad CGI, which is something they can't afford if they want to regain the trust of fans. They need to show they are willing to hire more VFX artists, considering how many projects they're working on, so we don't have a repeat of Phase 4, and so that hopefully by the time Phase 6 rolls out, those bad CGI jokes will be gone. After we saw how beautiful a film like Avatar: The Way of Water was, which is also made by Disney, the MCU has no excuse and will be ridiculed more than ever if they don't fix this problem. So hire more VFX artists and pay them what they deserve, which is not 70 to 80% of what VFX artists over at Warner Bros. And Universal make, which is apparently what they're currently paying these artists. The studio will lose money, but the studio kind of already is losing money, where only one Phase 4 movie broke the $1 billion mark in Spider-Man No Way Home, which had an insane amount of hype, and the films after this one have no excuse to say deflated numbers because of COVID. If they don't start paying the VFX artists, not only could they leave to a better paying studio and leave Marvel with worse artists, but it could also spell doom for the total success of the MCU. Now, after watching Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, I could notice some green screens. However, I do feel like the CGI was closer to the levels of the first Doctor Strange movie, which is good. Obviously, you have the character of MODOK in this film that did not look good at all, but I'm not going to complain about that character because I feel like that's a character that no matter how hard you try, he is going to look fake. He's not going to look good. He's just known to be an ugly character, so he just looked ugly in the film. So I'm not going to complain on that, but as of now, I feel like Phase 5 is off to a good start in terms of CGI, and I feel like it looks better. Now, the third point is more specials. One of the best new things to come out of Marvel in Phase 4 for me were the holiday specials. First, we got Werewolf by Night, which didn't try to appeal to a wide audience like all of the films, but it was one of the most beloved Phase 4 projects by so many people because of that. It was original. These specials were cheaply made compared to the films, and the shows where Werewolf by Night was black and white and used practical effects, and the Guardians Holiday Special was made on set of Guardians 3, and while they didn't bring as much money to the studio or prolong traffic to Disney Plus, they gave people hope. As of now, no Phase 5 specials have been announced, but I would love to see 2 Werewolf by Night sequels for Halloween 2023 and 2024, where maybe one shows the werewolf and Man-Thing interacting with another member of the Midnight Suns like Blade to set up the film, and the third can be a Midnight Suns mission where they meet Moon Knight to bring him into the team to actually prepare for ways these characters can be included in the Phase 6 tie-in films. And we could see another in 2024 for Juneteenth with the characters of Black Panther like Okoye and the other Midnight Angels, where they go to another African country to help stop a civil war there. Another interesting one could be bringing the multiverse into play, which we know this is the multiverse saga, so it should be brought into play. And it would be on Thanksgiving with a world where Native Americans and the Pilgrims work together to build this country into what it is today, but inspired by Native American culture, and we meet Joe Gomez, Captain America, who needs to go on a mission which would also give us an extra character to be brought in through the multiverse in Phase 6's Secret Wars. I would also love to see a Christmas special focusing on the Winter Soldier, which will lead into why he is on the Thunderbolts. I just thought his name is the Winter Soldier. It would be interesting to see a story like Die Hard, but with the Winter Soldier. I think that would be a lot of fun. And I mean, it would kind of give us more insight into this actual character before we get into the Thunderbolts project. It would be his first solo project where he had a film where his name was in the title. He had a TV show where his name was in the title, but in both projects, he was not the main character. So hopefully we can finally get it in this special. They need to continue doing more specials like this so they can more effectively test new strategies in smaller scale projects, rather than getting fans intrigued about a show for weeks with a new strategy, just to have the finale disappoint them almost every time. Which brings us smoothly into the fourth thing Marvel needs to learn from Phase 4. Hype shows up by their quality, not their teases. This was arguably my biggest problem with the MCU shows, where so many Easter eggs and theories of what was going on started popping up every episode that once the 35 to 40 minute finale came, there was no time to answer all the questions. It felt rushed, and to an extent, felt like you wasted weeks thinking about everything that would happen just for a lackluster result. This happened in WandaVision with Mephisto, this happened in Hawkeye with Kingpin, this happened even to a lesser extent in Moon Knight. Just stop teasing so much for a season finale. I genuinely think the best form of storytelling they can do is by watching their sibling studio with Star Wars, and what they did in the TV show Andor, where the show had 3 3-episode arcs that eventually led to a grand finale, but it didn't feel like too much because some smaller reveals and finales happened throughout the season. The Phase 5 TV shows are Secret Invasion, Echo, Ironheart, What If Season 2, Loki Season 2, Daredevil Born Again, and Agatha Coven of Chaos, where I don't think every show would benefit from the strategy, like I think What If should be an anthology series again, but the majority would benefit and would help make fans less antagonistic towards the shows, and will help make the finales feel less rushed and overall better. However, in a way, Andor copied Marvel by having a TV show with 3 phases and a grand finale in the 3rd phase, which is why Marvel did so well, but is now slowing down, which brings us into the final thing Marvel needs to do in Phase 5, assemble. Like Andor, where these smaller finales made the grand finale not feel like too much, that's what the first 3 phases of Marvel were. Can you imagine if the first Avengers film we got was Infinity War, where these characters weren't given opportunities to grow together until then, and everything had to be rushed into 2 films. No Avengers Age of Ultron, just straight into the 3rd and 4th films. That's how these shows have felt, and that's my biggest fear for the multiverse saga as a whole. I already mentioned they need to show where things are leading, which they are doing in Quantumania, but Quantumania shows how the villain will come. We still need to know how the heroes will come, and that can only be done by assembling. When you say your films are separated into phases, each phase should be able to be watched as its own thing and feel like a complete story even if there's a bigger story to tell. Phase 4 was the first phase that felt incomplete because we never had the heroes assemble. Rather, it ended with 2 very secluded stories in Black Panther Wakanda Forever and the Guardians Holiday Special. When I was actually reading this script to one of my friends, he was very surprised when I mentioned that the end of the phase was Black Panther Wakanda Forever. He thought that it was still Phase 4 right now with Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. This film didn't feel like a conclusion to the phase at all, to the point where people don't even know it was a conclusion. Luckily, Phase 5 does end with characters assembling, but they're assembling random characters that the majority of which fans didn't care to see be assembled because it's not the Avengers. It's the Thunderbolts, or in other words, random super soldiers with 1 to 2 normal fighters. There is no uniqueness in how these characters will differ in battle, And probably the only unique character in Ghost was recently reported to be removed from the team, which I don't know if it's true, but if it is, this team is very basic and isn't that big assembling moment, which gives us a Phase 5 finale. I mean, it's not even going to have the main MCU characters of Spider-Man, Shang-Chi, Doctor Strange. It's going to be very random super soldier characters. Now, I do think Secret Invasion will be a project to assemble characters, but we need that Phase 5 finale that I'm just not sure if Thunderbolts will be, and unless they add maybe 2 to 3 more characters into the team, like Cassie Lang, who we just saw in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Ironheart, who we saw in Black Panther and Wakanda Forever, Spider-Man, who wouldn't be able to show his identity, which could be a cool tool to play with, and or She-Hulk, I feel like even if it is an incredible film, it will feel like another Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which isn't that phase finale we're all waiting for, which would make Phase 6 be like the TV shows they've released, where too much happens in Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars for us to keep up with, and it will bring Phase 6 to a bad conclusion, and I think that could genuinely spell the end for the MCU. Where in my honest opinion, I feel like the MCU has a minimum of 9 phases total, where the first 3, we already got them, they were great. Now these next 3 are based on the multiverse and nostalgia, which even if it's not good, people are going to keep on watching because of nostalgia. People want to see Wolverine, people want to see the Spider-Man, people want to see Professor X. And then I think the next 3 phases are going to go into the X-Men, and we're going to get sequels for the Fantastic Four movie. So it's obvious that people are going to be interested in those phases. But if this problem continues where it's not just at the end of Phase 6 where people are like, okay, that wasn't good, hopefully this next phase is better, but then it's not better, that could genuinely spell the end for the MCU, especially if the DCU starts taking off and people start going from the MCU to the DCU to become fans of them. So if that's the case, this could be the end of the MCU if they do not start learning from these 5 things, and they have to learn from a lot of other things that I didn't even mention. These are just the main 5. So hopefully the MCU changes. We'll see if they do. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any other ideas of how they could change or things that you think are better in Phase 5 that you saw in Quantumania, please let me know down in the comment section below. Please like, comment, subscribe, and click the bell notification for more videos whenever I make them. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time on Big Flick Energy.